Uh, wow, this is incredible to be here. Sharing a stage with so many amazing people. I'm like really in disbelief right now. Um, so my name is Ryan Hammond. I'm going to be talking about a project called Open Source Gender Codes that I have been kind of gestating for the past 2 years now. So about 2 years ago, I started getting involved at the Baltimore Underground Science Space. This is a community biology lab where scientists and non-scientists come together to learn about the newly forming discipline of synthetic biology. As an emerging discipline, it's kind of a shape-shifting term at the moment. It's been used to refer to the genetic engineering of yeast to produce cheaper forms of insulin, the attempts to resurrect extinct species, such as the woolly mammoth, and also attempts to genetically modify human beings, example being the CEO of BioViva's recent genetic modification of her own body in an attempt at life extension. Importantly, it's a science with roots in the eugenics movement and notions of optimizing the human race through directed evolution. Eugenics is something that many might misguidedly think is over, in the same way that many people believe racism is over, as if we have severed ties and it's fully in the past. Unfortunately, this is not the case. To put it in perspective, the last state boards of eugenics and the last state-sponsored sterilizations of people were occurring in the 1980s. So this is really, really recent stuff. And we have some social questions we need to answer before we can start genetically modifying human beings. The emerging problem is that any genetic modification procedure, whether it be life extension or cognitive enhancement, which is available to only a certain wealth bracket in an economic system that is still privileging white, heterosexual, cisgender male people over all others, is inherently participating in eugenics through a type of selection. So Bugs is a really special place because it's one of just a handful of labs that has started to spring up around the world to make these tools more accessible, bring more voices into this conversation about what are we going to do with this technology that's emerging right now. When I was getting involved at Bugs, my particular interest was in using these tools and using the language of science and of objective knowledge production to try and undermine the predominant binary narrative of gender, which too often is participating in the erasure of and the production of violence towards gender variant people. I wish I had some more time to go into some of the history that I've been learning about the development of synthetic hormones and the places where that history intersects with queer histories and transgender histories. But because I only have 10 minutes, I'm going to keep it to saying that claiming body sovereignty and claiming ownership over the technologies of gender are two things that are at the core of this work. So sex hormones today are not just biomolecules, they're not just things that are produced in bodies. They are molecular technologies of gender construction that we're all using through hormone replacement therapy, through hormonal birth control, or simply by drinking water and eating food, as it's been well documented that xenoestrogens and endocrine disruptors are omnipresent in environments around the world. Currently, pharmaceutical-grade sex hormones are produced by feeding soybean oil and other vegetable oils to specific microbes that produce enzymes that can lock onto and transform sterols in these oils into sex hormones, which are then extracted, purified, and prepared for human use. That process is called bioproduction. So the goal of open source gender codes is to do that in a plant rather than in a microbe, and dedicate this plant-based bioproduction system to the public domain in support of a biocommons, or kind of a library of collectively owned medical technologies and tools. It's significant that it be in a plant for a number of reasons. Plants have been shown to be less susceptible to contamination. They require less infrastructure, and they can lower production costs anywhere from 90 to 99.9%. So it's a really significant number. But for me as an artist, the very existence of a transgenic plant producing human hormones is charged with a potential energy. And I feel that that organism has a voice in a way and asks for a radical reimagining of the way that we approach gender and the way that we approach healthcare today. The plant is just one node of a complex web of entities that are involved in the co-creation of gender today. So you have the individual, you have the social and ethical frameworks, the legal and regulatory frameworks which decide who can access, when, and for what the technologies of gender themselves. And then you have all of the stuff that is not really seen, the political and historical context that is physically manifested in all of this infrastructure and all of this system. It's impossible for me to just engage one part of this, although I'm focusing in on the production methods, without addressing all entities involved, whether intentional or not. So this is where I've been operating for the past few months, trying to learn how to navigate this complexity with a systems thinking perspective, and how to be as intentional as possible with the way that I'm engaging each of these entities. Concretely, this means I'm working with others to do gene design to form new plasmids for plant transformation, experiment design to ask questions of physical reality and of non-human organisms and try to devise ways of getting answers, website design to create a platform for artists and biohackers and scientists and anybody who might be interested in contributing to this to connect, share experimental data, protocols, ideas, criticisms, critiques. And then legal design, working with a biotech patent lawyer to try to create some type of legal framework to protect anything that might come out of this community from being patented and monopolized by any one person. So I just want to finish by recognizing some of the really incredible people I've encountered through this work and who have really gotten the ideas to the point that they're at today. And I have 36 seconds. Hi.
Hello, darling.
Hi.
Oh,
Oh my God, my microphone.
we can share.
Okay.
We can share this
Okay.
one. Oh my God, you're so young. Like a stem cell. Oh
Yes.
my goodness.
I can turn into anything.
wanted to ask you, sweetie, that do you think that maybe it's time for a new species to take over our planet since we're not such great caretakers?
Yes, I do. I
Let's
think we need to invent ourselves into a new species.
Indeed, indeed. Well, let's chant the mantra. New species, new species, new species, new